Super forms. These are some of the coolest and most badass things you can have in a video game, and I absolutely adore them. And it's not even in video games either, it's in general media. For example, Dragon Ball Z, it kind of makes a big part of its legacy purely based off of super forms. However, unfortunately, Sonic does have a little bit of a situation when it comes to super forms, in that I feel that due to some arbitrary rules at the head of Sonic Team, I feel like the super forms and super transformations in this franchise are being a bit held back, which is very unfortunate because everyone loves running through these games as a golden god of destruction. But what do I mean by that being held back? Well, first of all, is one major restriction, which is the only characters nowadays, and I have to emphasize nowadays because this wasn't always the case, but the only characters nowadays that are allowed to go super is the male hedgehogs. So Sonic, Shadow, Silver, and that's it. No one else is really allowed. Blaze is an exception, I guess, because she comes from a different dimension, but unfortunately, these are the only characters allowed to have super forms today. And I have no idea why, because in the original classic games, you got the Chaos Emeralds and you were able to transform and become this unstoppable god. With the exception of Tails originally, it didn't matter which character you played as. Like, if you wanted to play as Knuckles and you got the Chaos Emeralds, boom, you can transform into Super Knuckles and lay waste to the fools who may oppose you. And like I said, with Tails, it was a bit of an exception because for some reason they had this restriction on Tails all the way back then as well, where you needed the enhanced Chaos Emeralds from Sonic 3 and Knuckles to be able to go super, which I always felt was a really weird restriction, even though Super Tails in that game was broken as hell. He had this flicky army of death, and it was great. It was absolutely amazing fun. I love it. And now we fast forward to the days of Sonic Heroes, and what you'll notice is they don't actually turn super anymore. So in Sonic Heroes, the final boss fight, of course, Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, they use the Chaos Emeralds to gain the power to beat down Metal Sonic. And while Sonic turns into his usual Golden God form, Tails and Knuckles do not go super. They just get these dinky, rinky-dinky shields. And I never understood this. It's always been one of those things that's really kind of rubbed me the wrong way with the series comes on. Like, you don't need to do much to make these guys super forms. Just make them float and give them slightly brighter skin for the most part. Brighter fur. Have the fur glow. It's something I've never quite understood. This all really basically kind of continued for many, many, many years. Where basically all we saw was Sonic, Shadow, Silver on one occasion going super, and that was it. Oh, and Blaze the Cat as well, I guess, but she uses different methods. So when we got to Sonic Superstars, I was excited because Sonic Superstars was being billed as a classic Sonic game, much like Sonic Mania, much like Sonic 1, 2, 3, where you could get the Chaos Emeralds the traditional way and transform. And this would be the first time in 3D that we could actually see multiple characters turn super. However, Sonic Superstars did one admittedly minor but annoying retcon when it comes to the super forms, in which Sonic is the only character technically to have a super form in that game. Well, him and Trip. Everyone else, Tails, Knuckles, Amy, they got, quote-unquote, superpowers, so they weren't actually going super anymore. Like that, them transforming to being super forms has been just straight up retconned out of the series, and I'm just left scratching myself, scratching my head, going, why? This is such a weird restriction on the transformation. Like, you would think, you get the Chaos Emeralds, you have unbelievable power. It turns your thoughts into power. That's the point of the Chaos Emeralds. So it never made sense to me. And honestly, I feel like in a lot of ways, this holds the series back. This holds the transformations back because, if you're playing a game and you want to be Amy and you want her to turn into like this unstoppable force of nature, why have the arbitrary rules in place? It would be really cool to have a game where Amy can transform and become fully super. And this goes for all of the other characters as well. I guess it could be argued that maybe the lore implications of this whole thing is that male hedgehogs have a natural affinity to the Chaos Emeralds and Chaos Energy in general. The other cast doesn't have. But I don't know, it just feels very weird to me having that as a justification, because how do you explain Knuckles then? Because Knuckles, he guards over the Master Emerald. He has an affinity for the energy because he communes with the Master Emerald a couple of times in the series. For example, in Sonic Adventure 1, he uses it basically as a television set to find out where to go next. And in Sonic Adventure 2, he directly uses it to power down the Chaos Emeralds that are going out of control. So I never understood, I never understood that argument. I never understood that infinity argument that sometimes gets made. Now, functionally, it's basically exactly the same as Supersonic, despite it just being worded as superpowers. There's no actual functional difference between a super form and what is done in Sonic Superstars. The characters even glow like they do in the classic games. So, honestly, it really just adds on to the question of why did they even bother to make the distinction in the first place? Because I have no problem with the Hedgehog characters looking unique when they transform, but I don't know, it's just a really strange thing, where it's functionally the same. Why bother changing it in the first place? It doesn't make sense to me. And another ruling about the super forms that I find are really restrictive is the lack of enhanced super forms. So, generally speaking, Sonic can only go super now. Whereas back in Sonic 3, there was a form higher than Super Sonic that you could transform into, which is the Hyper form, which can only be accessed if you get the Super Emeralds, which, for those who haven't played Sonic 3, they are the Chaos Emeralds, but supercharged. They're full of energy, they're way more powerful, and it's a more stronger version of Super Sonic, effectively. And that's only ever appeared in that one game. And I feel that's a really big missed opportunity that Sega refuses to bring it back. Because it's just cool. That's as simple as it is. It's just a really cool sort of system. I like Hypersonic. I want Hypersonic to return. And the reason that Sega do give about this is that, effectively, they don't want to turn the series into Dragon Ball Z, which, to tell you the truth, I understand and I agree with. Because what I don't want the Hyper form, for example, to be brought back every single game, because that would be silly. It would dilute the importance of Supersonic and Hypersonic. But come on, guys, you can bring it back more, once every maybe 10, 15 years. Like bring out a game every now and then, and have it fall like a super big bad or something. Just because it'll be cool, it'll be fan service, people will love it. So what Sega has been kind of doing instead has been adopting one-off super forms, so transformations that appear for one game and that's it. And generally, I actually like the idea behind this. For example, Sonic and the Secret Rings. Darkspine Sonic is a transformation you get when you get the World Rings, and it is a really, really cool transformation, and I absolutely adore everything about the design and everything about this character, and it's only appeared in the one game. However, unlike Hypersonic, I'm just okay with this guy being a one-off because it fits in with the lore of the games, Same goes with Sonic on the Black Knight. Sonic transforms into Excalibur Sonic by wielding the legendary blade Excalibur, and it's a really cool form, it's a really cool transformation, and it's a one-off, and I'm also okay with that. And even in Sonic Frontiers, Sonic transforms into actually two super forms in this one, because he goes into Starfall Super Sonic when he's fighting the end, and then in the final cutscene, of course, Sonic transforms then fully into Cyber Sonic to lay the beat down and destroy the end. And I felt like it was a very big missed opportunity to not have Hypersonic return in Frontiers, essentially. Because, you had the big bad enemy that was the most powerful adversary Sonic faced yet, unless you count Solaris, because Solaris is like a multi-dimensional being. But apart from that, it's the most powerful being Sonic has met yet. So, to me, I always felt that was the perfect opportunity to reintroduce Hypersonic, reintroduce the Hyper form, and have it only show up for a brief time. So make Hypersonic appear only in times of great crisis when the super forms isn't enough. And I felt like that would have been a good compromise. But sadly, it wasn't to be, and instead we got Starfall, Supersonic, and Cybersonic, which are cool forms, don't get me wrong. But part of me is just like, we missed out on having the excitement and hype that a hyper form could have brought, you know? Like, people were going absolutely mad and weeping tears of joy and having sheer excitement levels when Supersonic transformed into Starfall in the new game. But just imagine how much more multiplayer that would be with Sonic fans if Hyper came back, you know? Now, I believe that they tried to, like, sort of do, like, a lore reasoning for why Hyper doesn't return, but it was kind of like a half-assed thing that they threw into Sonic Mania, unfortunately, where the Super Emeralds are just kind of, like, cracked and grey. And I guess that's meant to imply that the Super Emeralds can't be used again. I think that's the idea, but I don't know, I guess it kind of just rubs me the wrong way that the super forms used against a normal Eggman mech at the end of Sonic 3 in canon, if that's the case. Because Sonic didn't need to go hyper, which means that form got wasted on an enemy that didn't need it. It's one of them weird situations. Overall, I think the main point is, you know, like, I just feel like the super forms in Sonic have been held back by arbitrary restrictions, you know? Like, just let all the characters use the Chaos Emeralds for one thing, because it would be really, really cool, you know? And in terms of the hyper forms, you know, maybe just find an excuse to bring it back once or twice. I'm not saying bring them back every single game, because again, I do kind of agree with Sega's reasoning to a degree, where we don't want this turning into Dragon Ball Z, because having Sonic get the new transformation that's more powerful than the last every single time will introduce power creep, and that will introduce a lot of problems going forward in the series, you know? But I don't feel the harm in bringing Hypersonic back once every now and then. And you don't even need to give up the one-off transformations for the sake of Hyper either, you know? Like, you can still have the new transformations that are triggered by external factors that are different. Like, maybe they can make it so, like, in times of Great Crisis, you know, Supersonics are enough, so the Master Emerald will supercharge him with, like, a beam of light or something. I don't know, I'm just spitballing stuff at this point. But that's generally what I feel, you know? I feel like that the Chaos Emeralds could be used with a lot more utility in the franchise, you know, the super transformations. They just feel too restrictive. I wish that the other characters had the ability to transform more often and have real transformations as well. And there you go. Just bring back Hypersonic. Just do it once. You know, just do it once to say you brought it back. Don't have to bring it back again. Just do it for one extra time. Because I think that form would be so exciting to see in 3D. You know, and then maybe make a lore reason why it can't be done again. Or maybe make it so it drains Sonic to such a degree that it's a risk to transform into that form. Basically, what I'm saying is, give us a lore reason why you can't go hyper anymore that doesn't boil down to a visual moment in Sonic Mania because they scrapped the hyper form out of the game at the last minute. Essentially, you know. But anyway, that's my ramblings for now. So thank you all for watching, folks. If you guys have anything to say on this subject, feel free to put it in the comments. I'm curious to hear what you guys think about this, because this is a topic that's been in my mind for a little, quite a while. And I don't know, I just wanted to kind of push it out there. So for now, thanks for watching, folks. And I'll see you after. Bye!